Hi, I'm Jessica Beck from the 3 Keys Success System, your opportunity to get the score you need on IELTS. So today we are going to talk about speaking part 2 and how to introduce your answer. I have taught IELTS for a very long time, 10 plus years, let's say, a few years past 10. And I know that a lot of teachers tell students to do exactly the same thing, where the student should say, in this answer, I am going to tell you about my dog, or whatever. Like, that's so boring. And it's weird. I mean, a native speaker would never say that. Like, ever. It doesn't sound fluent. It sounds a bit awkward, and it sounds like just a student. That's all it sounds like. It doesn't sound like a 7 or higher, that's for sure. So don't say that. Don't be boring. Don't sound like everyone else. What you should do is think of an interesting way to begin your talk and introduce what you're going to say without copying the task 2 card, all right? So don't stare at the card and say, today I am going to describe the last movie I saw at the cinema. That's terrible. It's not your own vocabulary, and it sucks as an answer. All right, so let's get into some examples. So if the task 2 card asked you to describe a person you know and admire, you can say, there is a person in my life that I have known, it feels like forever, and I have a great deal of respect for them. Okay, so what I did there was paraphrase the task 2 card, okay? Paraphrasing is going to get you a 7 or higher for vocabulary. The examiner listens for that. That is a very specific thing the examiner wants to hear to give you a higher score. And it's nice for your fluency and coherence because it's a nice introduction to your answer, and you don't sound like a student robot. All right, so what you should do is rewind this video and write down what I just said, because that's an example you can use to help you paraphrase speaking part 2 cards about people. Lately, there have been a few part 2 cards about describing objects, and I know this is the toughest one. So if a part 2 card said, for example, describe something you own that you could not live without, I would introduce my answer by saying, this is kind of a funny question, because if I think of something I can't live without, I don't think about my phone or an actual object. I think about my son, or I think about my my life. No, that doesn't make sense. I think about my exercise habit. Okay, so that's one way to approach it, is to find an interesting perspective on it. And again, like, those are the first things that came to mind: my son and my exercise. And that's fine. What you need to go with is the first thing that comes to mind, because that's what's gonna save time. You don't have to think of anything else. Go with that, take notes right away, and that's what you talk about. So in that example, I used a conditional phrase. Higher grammar score. I used a conditional phrase to introduce my answer. And again, rewind, write that down, try and make it your own in your practice. Okay, I'll give you one more example. So far we've done the object and a person. Another thing you might be asked to describe is an experience in part 2. So for example, the part 2 card might say, describe the last party you went to that was boring. That would actually be a funny topic. It might happen. You never know. IELTS has some funny topics. I would introduce my answer by saying, honestly, I don't go to a lot of parties because I'm very busy and I'm in my 30s. But if I have to talk about a party that I've been to, I would say last Halloween, I went to a party at a neighbor's house, and to be frank, unfortunately, it was not that fun. So again, I'm paraphrasing the topic, I'm making it my own, I'm introducing what I'm gonna talk about. I'm accomplishing all of these things for high scores, for fluency and coherence, vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, and I'm still doing the introduction like teachers want you to do. I'm just making it better. I'm making it mine. All right, so please write down my examples and try and make them your own, okay, for a variety of topics that you might see on part 2. For more speaking examples, vocabulary, linking words, transition phrases, please check out my IELTS course with the Score Increase Guarantee, 3 Keys IELTS. Go to IELTS.allearsenglish.com. Thank you for listening and have a good day.